What's up, YTPC? This is DSG Pipe Smoker with another pipe smoking video, and today I'm doing a pipe review on the Peterson Killarney 120 with the famous, very unique P-lip. Couple of disclaimers before I get too much further into the video. This is not a system pipe. It does have the P-lip, but it does not have the system where they drilled basically an extra cavity into the shank to allow for moisture accumulation, in theory, to provide a cooler smoke. This just has your standard airway or air hole drilled into the chamber leading through the shank into the stem. Anyway, completely standard stuff. Furthermore, this is slightly modified. To make a long story short, I had the original tenon, which was a soft plastic, super thin, flexible tenon that accepted 9mm filters. I had that replaced with a Delrin tenon that was drilled to about the same size as the air hole. I don't remember what they drilled it to, but it's basically the same diameter. So with all of that being said, let's get into the review. Let's talk about the appearance really quick. As you can see, it's this nice, back up so my camera will get some lighting here. Nice red. Nice contrast with the grain and the black stain. Now, obviously, briar being what it is, a natural material, your grain pattern's going to vary. But this is the grain pattern on the pipe that I got. Got some stamping on there. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. It's a little fuzzy on my end. My end being recording it. But the Killarney side of the shank should show up pretty good. Hopefully you can see that. Back up a little bit. Nice, good, deep, solid stamps on there. In case you couldn't read it, it says, a Peterson product made in the Republic of Ireland, 120. And then on the other side, like I said, it says Killarney with a nice cursive to it. Taking a step back, it's got a good overall, mostly red briar to it that contrasts well with this vulcanite stem. I think the newer ones are using acrylic. My understanding is that the system standards, the newer ones anyways, they're using acrylic. This is vulcanite, but it's the same black color as some of the newer Killarneys. With all that being said, it has a nice accent piece. That is obviously some kind of metal. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it contrasts well with the pipe. Overall length is 5 3/4. The bowl height is about 2 inches, and according to Tobacco Pipes, I think is what it is. Let me look at my notes here. Yeah, tobaccopipes.com. They cite the chamber depth at 1.61 inches, the chamber width at 0.83 inches. What's interesting about this pipe is that most Dublin-shaped pipes, which is what Peterson calls this, most Dublin-shaped pipes have a very pronounced, very wide bowl to the top of them, and then it chokes down real hard. Obviously, in order to avoid, creating thin walls on the bottom, you would have to drill a conical chamber to that. But Peterson didn't, we take a step back, you can kind of see that it tapers a little bit, but it's nothing drastic. And the walls are pretty thick to begin with, so Peterson got away with making kind of a U shape towards the bottom, something that you usually see in like a billiard. With the dimensions out of the way, let's talk about ergonomics. Ergonomically speaking, this pipe is very comfortable to hold. Bowl holds very well in a lot of different configurations. It's just nice to hold. Clenching wise, well, that's going to depend on your preferred method of clenching. I like to clench pretty much on the button, like between my teeth, or if the button of the stem is small enough and this part is flat enough, I will clench just inside of that. I've seen some people clench pipes and they're clenching them way down here. If that's the way you like to clench, you're probably going to like this pipe and you're probably going to clench it pretty well. It's not the lightest pipe in the world, but it's by no means a hefty pipe. So you should be able to, clench it comfortably right about there. Again, my problem is that you can kind of see where that airway begins. And if I take a pipe cleaner, just to demonstrate the angle that we're talking about, that's a pretty steep angle, and you can see where it kind of begins. It begins right about there. So that makes for a pretty thick button. What I like to do, again, because it holds really well, I like to hold it between my teeth. So I'll use, you see that little bottom crevice? I like to use that as a shelf for my bottom lip, and then hold my top lip here, cant it ever so slightly up, like this. Works really well for me. It's not so, the angle of the smoke coming out of the pipe isn't so drastic that it's like right behind my teeth, but at the same time it's not hitting my tongue, which is kind of the whole purpose of this P-lip. The P-lip is supposed to prevent tongue bite by avoiding the tongue altogether. We'll get into my final thoughts on that with the conclusion, but moving on from ergonomics, let's talk about smoking mechanics. The draw overall is pretty good. Now, again, caveat here, I did get the tenon replaced with a Delrin tenon and just had a standard drilling through it. Your mileage may vary. My experience with filtered pipes that I don't put a filter in, they have a very wide open draw. They're going to vary, obviously, but usually they have a pretty wide open draw. And as far as filters go, I can count on one hand the number of times I've used a filter, probably without using my thumb, to count the number of times that I've used a filter. And from what I've experienced, it's a pretty tight draw using a filter. So, just kind of bear that in mind. It's not the end of the world if you, you find out through this review that it does come with a filtered tenon. You can have that fixed. You can take it to somebody who's competent enough with pipe repair and pipe restoration to make you a good non-filtered Delrin tenon, like I did. So, draw out of the way. It does get a little wet towards the bottom. A little bit more than most pipes. I don't know if that's this specific pipe in general, and by specific, I don't mean just the Killarneys, the 120s. I mean, like, literally this specific pipe that I'm holding in my hands. In other words, I don't really know if I have a dud or not. I don't have enough Petersons to really specify or mention that. But I did notice that this particular pipe was a little bit more wet than normal. And again, it's not a system pipe. It's just a normally drilled pipe. It does pass a pipe cleaner. It's probably a big question that a lot of people have. You know, how does this angle, this drastic angle, change how a pipe cleaner behaves? Like I said, on this straight pipe, it does pass a pipe cleaner, as you can see by the white pipe cleaner in the chamber. That being said, one thing I have noticed about this pipe, and it's something you're gonna have to, keep in mind with these. I don't know if you can hear that with the loons. Give them a second to calm down. Okay. Hear that? That's the sound. Hopefully you can hear that. But it's the sound of the pipe cleaner rubbing against this air hole. You can see the bend that it makes in the pipe. Occasionally, not with every smoke, but occasionally, I do notice that it will tear up a pipe cleaner to where it's leaving little white specks of cotton, at least I think this is cotton, in the air hole. So, bear that in mind. Something that could happen. I haven't really heard of anybody mentioning that, but it is an observation I made, at least with this pipe. But it's not something that happens all the time, and it's not a huge game changer. Like I said, it doesn't happen that often. Continuing with the smoking mechanics, it does build up a carbon to it, a carbon layer. Hopefully you can see that. Does build it up. It's building it up really slowly though. And it handles heat fairly well until it gets to the bottom of the bowl. But I don't know if that's because of the briar or if it's because of, you know, the fact that getting into how well it handles moisture. This pipe, as soon as you get towards the bottom of the bowl, it does accumulate quite a bit of moisture. Not an overly... It doesn't make for an overly wet smoke. I'm not saying that. It's just saying that compared to most pipes that I have, most briar pipes that I have and I've smoked, it tends to produce a slightly more wet smoke towards the bottom. So when I smoke tobacco in this pipe, I tend to either smoke drier blends, or I just, if a blend needs to be dried out, I let it dry out a little bit more. With that being said, what kind of tobacco does this pipe like? I find that Virginia Periques smoke really well in this pipe. Now, with a conical bowl, you know, the Perique's going to be on some blends, or more often than not, the Perique will be more present towards the top, and then as you smoke it down, the Virginias start to come out. With this, you get... Okay, had to delete a couple videos, but we're back. Anyway, as I was saying, this pipe, when it comes to Virginia Periques, tends to bring out both the sweet and the spicy aspects of the Virginia and the Perique, in kind of a good overall mix. You know, it's not overly Perique heavy in one section and then sweet in another. It's got a good combination of the two. And while I prefer to smoke Virginia Periques in a conical bowls because, again, not always, but sometimes it'll produce um, the change in flavor throughout the smoke in the order that I mentioned. Perique first, then you smoke it down a little bit, and it starts to get into the Virginias. The other thing that this pipe likes to smoke are light Balkan blends. That being said, it doesn't really bring out the Latakia in these Balkan blends nearly as much as, say, a 7LA 320 or a pot-shaped pipe. But, kind of a lighter Balkan that doesn't have a lot of Latakia in it. Something that, is still fairly heavy in the Orientals, relatively speaking, and then maybe heavier in the other components. This pipe tends to like that. It tends to bring out the Orientals and those kinds of blends really well. In conclusion, first of all, does this P-lip, or the P-lip actually work? Well, it was originally put there, as I understand it, to aid in preventing tongue bite by avoiding the tongue altogether. Does it achieve that? Yes. Yes, it does. That being said, I have been warned about this too. See if I can fix the lighting here. That being said, you can get roof of mouth bite. I didn't really experience that too much. I've heard some people complain about it, just looking at reviews and listening to some people who have commented on the fact. So, approach this with caution if you're going to use it as a pipe, say, for straight Virginias, or if you're sensitive to Perique, if you're going to use it for Virginia Periques, or, aromatics can sometimes cause tongue bite. But as far as tongue bite specifically, yeah, it does help in preventing that because you're not drawing smoke directly into the tongue. It has its unique little challenges, but overall, it's a solid pipe, and I think it would be something that, you guys should get if you haven't purchased a Peterson yet. I got mine with a whole bunch of other pipes. I want to say I spent like $50 or $60. It's been a while since I did the Etsy Yabo pipe video or unboxing video, but not a whole lot. So these are definitely available in the estate market. You can find them. The newer ones are out there. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the Peterson Killarney 120 Dublin shaped pipe with the P-lip. This has been DSG Pipe Smoker with another pipe smoking video. You guys have a good day.